Today, I'm going to talk to you about guiding children in how to make choices. Making choices is not an easy task. And I guess we can all agree with that. We are often faced with tasks of making choices and we find them very difficult to do. So, making a choice is really not an easy task. One, it takes a lot of courage for us to make a choice. It takes a lot of knowledge to make a choice and a lot of ability to think beyond oneself to make a choice. So it's not easy. As parents, we have to make choices every day. And you have to make choices for the family, you have to make choices for elders in the family, you have to make choices for the children at home. This is not easy. As parents, you find yourself making choices every single day. As teachers, you find yourself making choices every day. What to present, what not to present, who to interrupt, who not to interrupt. In fact, just yesterday, we met a lovely group of teachers and we discussed how to support children in their work. And really today, as I was reflecting on the topic and all the solutions that the teachers came up with, it was really just a list of choices that they were going to choose to make from Monday in their classrooms. I would choose to do this. I would choose to do this. I would choose to do this. It was nothing but choices. And they made a list of choices that they are going to try to implement in their work with children. And that takes a lot of courage. As a trainer, I find myself having to make choices every day. The most significant one, and you can ask some of my students, is to slow down while the lecture is going on. Slow down, Teenaz. Make the choice, slow down. Another one I have to constantly make, and I'm sure the other trainers will agree with me, stick to the deadline, extend the deadline. And I've got to make those choices. So these choices are not easy. They are not easy. And many factors have to be considered when we make these choices. So choices, as I was thinking about it today, seems to be so synonymous with life. And it's as if you are alive, you have no choice but to make a choice. So as we understand how important this is and how choices impact our lives and the lives of others, we do understand the importance for it for our children. And we do acknowledge that it's very important for us to help our children to make choices. I mean, the fact that you all are all here today is testimony that you are all wanting to hope to help your children make good choices. This is a topic we are often very consumed with as adults. And our goal is often that our children should make very appropriate choices. If I ask a teacher, she would say the same thing. If I ask a parent, they would say the same thing. Ask me, I'm hoping my students are making appropriate choices. So we are very invested in the fact that we need to help our children in the ability to make choices. Sometimes we are so consumed by this idea that our children must learn to make good choices that we end up imposing our choices on them. Or we find ourselves telling them what choices they must make. It comes from a very good place. It comes from a place of love. It comes from a place of wanting the best for them. Believe me, sometimes, I think I'm an adult. And sometimes when I'm sort of chatting with my mom, I find my mom still telling me what I should be doing today. So it comes from a place of love. And we understand that. But sometimes we end up imposing our choices on children in the cloak of that we're helping them do something that's right. But if we really have to equip our children to make choices for themselves, this can only happen when the children themselves make their choices and learn from them. And they have to learn from their choices of what to do next, for that matter, or what not to do next time. In our desire to help children make conducive choices for themselves and others, we must not forget that children are constructing themselves and have within them the very potential to grow into their own ability to make choices. So how do we help children realize their own potential for this? How do we do that? We can't really see that potential. It's not that the children are telling us, hey, look, I have the potential. It's something we've got to observe for. It's something we've got to have faith in. How do we guide them and not impose upon them? And that's a massive balance we have to make. We guide them, but not impose upon them. How do we, in some way, relieve ourselves from that constant pressure that it is only us who can make the child make good choices? Well, the answer lies in some very fundamental principles. And the answer lies in simply offering the children freedom, but with limits. Helping the children exercise their will and strengthening it. Helping the children build a capacity to do for themselves and to think for themselves. Fostering independence within the children, giving them the scope to be independent. Fostering courage in the children. Giving children lots and lots of opportunities to have real life experiences in real environments, in the midst of social life, with people, around people, not isolated from social life. Limitations, not overabundance. Giving them options, not threats. Giving them the space to self-correct. In this lies the answer to helping children make decisions for themselves. Children need the freedom to make choices. It is only in conditions of freedom that we will see this potential realized. When children find in their environment the possibility to choose, it builds in them the confidence that they can choose, and the fact that the environment believes and has faith that they can choose. This sense of confidence in themselves and in the environment is a good starting place for the birth of making choices. In the beginning, the children do not have the ability or the capacity to make lots of choices from many options. This is something they will need to build over time with experiences. But the simple fact that they can make choices from the start, no matter how small, is what enables them to go on into the future, making more complicated choices. So in the start, these choices that we need to offer our children will need to be choices that we are comfortable with, that we know are conducive, and that regardless of what the child chooses, we're okay with that. So it may be as simple as offering the children an option of, would you like to wear your blue pants today, or would you like to wear your black pants today? Both choices will work for us as adults. Both choices will keep them dressed appropriately for the weather. Or it could be as simple as, do you want to have idli for breakfast, or do you want to have a dosa for breakfast? These are choices that children can make and actually must make and must be free to make. And the limit is also there. There are two choices. So there's a limit, and it's quite enough in order to help them make the choice. And from this limit comes their security. From this limit comes their possibility to make the choice. It's a conducive limit. But what is essential is that once this choice is made, it must be respected and not changed or influenced for any reason whatsoever. So we need to be comfortable with the choices offered, and we need to accept the one chosen by the child, even if it may not have been the one that you were hoping for. This is important. This may seem trivial or sometimes inconsequential, or sometimes we even convince ourselves saying, what does it matter? I gave him the choice, but now he picked idli, but I think dosa is better. It's got potato in it. It's potato will give him more full. What's that white idli going to do? What does it matter? I made the choice. It's okay. But it does matter. It does. The child who is working at constructing his will needs to feel and experience the result of making the choice. It's not about the idli or the dosa. It's about the experience of making the choice and what comes after it as a result of making that choice. Did the dosa make me feel full? Should I have had the idli instead of that dosa? Should I have actually worn my black pants? So many of my friends have black pants on today. It's what comes after that choice has been made. It's that experience that comes after it, the consequence that comes after it, that helps the children decide next time if they should actually do that or not. This skill of knowing what to do and what not to do is a very vital aspect of decision making and making choices. It's evident that there needs to be, therefore, freedom to make the choice, right? Without freedom, our children are not going to have the possibility to make these choices. But they also need to have a space in which their choices are respected. But we also have to understand that having said that, the children must have a lot of freedom to make choices. It must be clear that we need to understand that we are not advocating for no limits to this freedom of choice. That's not what we're saying here. If or when a child chooses something that's not conducive to his development or for the social group that he is part of, then that choice needs to be interrupted and stopped immediately. If we do not do that at that time, we are not supporting the child's development, but rather we are abandoning the child with our passive attitude. To choose to throw things, to choose to be disruptive, to choose to hurt other people, to choose to not be careful is not in the true nature of the child. That is not the nature of the child. And therefore, we must not be afraid to stop that. We must only be afraid to stop spontaneous actions that are good, constructive, and developmental. So something that's not constructive, don't be afraid to stop it. But also know when to step back when something is conducive and spontaneous good action. It is very important to give children limits with the freedom to choose, because all of life and the environments that we are part of in life have natural limits built into them. The limits are a reality of life. The choices that children freely make in their environments have very real limits. A child is free to wash any table, but the natural limit is to put that table back dry so other children can use it. A table left wet after being washed and used by another child will result in the other child's work becoming wet. So if the child makes a choice not to dry that table, that choice results in a natural consequence to another's work getting wet. Experience of this resultant consequence upon others due to an action made by the child's free will help the child self-regulate in the future and learn from a choice made. No one needs to point this out to the child. No adult needs to admonish him. He learns for himself from his experience in that social setting. It therefore becomes very important that as we ensure children have the freedom to choose, we also help them become able and capable to think and act for themselves. We help them build an independence in thought and action. What this means is, if we go back to our earlier example, that we need to help this child build the control in his body, in his movement, so that he's actually capable of drying that table and making it absolutely dry. This is the only thing that will ensure that the table goes back dry. But for this to happen, the child needs plenty of opportunity to repeat. He needs plenty of opportunities to do. He needs plenty of opportunities to bring the necessary control into his body so that his body moves to the direction of his mind. So thought and action can be in harmony with one another. For this control and independence will come only the true freedom that will help the child make good choices. Real choices, and Montessori talks a lot about this in her literature, that real choices come from a place of understanding and knowledge. It comes from a place of knowing and having an experience. This is what we are trying to build within the children. Choices from knowledge. The key to doing this also lies in limitations and not in overabundance to choose from. Too much becomes overwhelming to choose from. And this can lead to an inability to make a good choice, or at times, even not making a choice at all. Think about the experiences we have in a huge sari shop or a huge grocery store. There is so much that is actually difficult for us to choose anything. We find ourselves standing in front of a huge aisle of all kinds of olive oil and all kinds of bread and all kinds of eggs, wondering, where is the regular egg? Where is the regular olive oil? And often, even if we did choose something from the abundance that's available, once we get home, a very strange thing happens. We're upset suddenly that we made the wrong choice. And now we want to go back and return it for something we didn't pick up. So instead of actually being so sure about our choice, we begin to doubt ourselves. We begin to second guess our choice. We begin to wonder if we can even make the choice at all from what's available. So some of us sometimes leave the shop saying, I can't find anything I want. Well, that's just not possible with the amount of oil that's available. But we tell ourselves and we convince ourselves, they don't have what I need over here. So the abundance is not necessarily good. And we have to remember that. The abundance is not necessarily good. This idea of limitation is reflected in Montessori text, in Montessori philosophy, and in Montessori classrooms. There is only what is necessary and sufficient in the environment. Most things are often just one. So the child often has to choose between one or the other. At times, he has no option as it's already being used by someone else. So he has to make the next best available option as a choice. The child is constantly experiencing that there are options to choose from, and that his choices not only impact him, but the social group. And that sometimes others' needs before his may need to be considered in the choices made. And that he has the freedom and the ability and the capacity to make the choice. He also needs to have and the ability to take on the onus and live with the decision of making that choice. If he has chosen to take the cubes and build a tower, someone else has been deprived of that choice. If he has taken those cubes to build the tower, he needs to put them back exactly the way he found them. So someone else can make a choice from a place where the tower is built ready. These are not things that we can teach children by speech or lectures. No matter how much we try, this is not something that's going to be learned through a lecture or a speech. These are things children have to experience for themselves. They have to experience it for themselves to incarnate it within themselves and weave it into their own personalities that they are building. We have to help the children build a courage for themselves to make their own choices. And just like we said in the start, this is very difficult to do. Choices are not easy, they're very difficult to do. The courage is the ingredient that we have to build so that our children can make the choices. Children need to build this courage to try to do something. They need to build this courage to get involved in something. They need to build this courage to not be afraid to try something. We cannot make them courageous. That's not what we can do. And again, we cannot lecture or teach courage into the children. We cannot even impose courage into them. It's not as simple as saying, come on, be courageous. It's like saying, come on, be courageous. If you don't know how to swim, come on, be courageous, get into the water. How can you, if you don't know how to do something? So it's not as simple as saying, come on, let's be courageous. This has to be built from life experiences. And this has to be built from life experiences from the start. And it has to be built by being around people who don't doubt your capacity. And the courage comes from there. So the courage has a multifaceted aspect. I have to trust myself, but I also have to know that the environment trusts that I can do it. This courage in the children is only built through freedom that they experience. It is built through confidence that they build for themselves. It is built through self-esteem that they build for themselves. It is built from a dignity that they have for themselves. It is built through interaction with loving adults who love and care and trust and believe in them. Because errors are a part of life. Mistakes are going to be a part of the learning process. And the errors are going to be the only things that are going to help children make better choices in the future. It's not the fear of making the error that we need to build in our children. It's actually the courage to face the error of a choice made and to grow from it that we need to build in our children. Punishing children for an error made in a choice that they made is not the answer. It is the possibility to make the choice again, but to do it differently than what was done before is at the core of being able to grow in making decisions. To be able to make choices throughout life, we need to embrace failure. We need to learn to live with failure and grow from it. Only the actions from the child are going to help this child learn how to make choices. It is from doing that the child learns how to make choices. It is from doing that the child begins to correct himself. It is from the doing that the child begins to self-reflect. And it is from the doing that the child becomes independent in making choices. So this freedom to choose, this freedom to repeat, this freedom to fix a mistake for themselves, this is what is going to help children in making decisions for themselves. What we consider an easy or simple choice or a simple decision in a choice that has to be made is not going to be the same for the children. So we cannot look upon the choices that we can make so effortlessly as the same for the children. Learning to make that choice is going to take the children time, it's going to take the children effort. And it's going to mean some errors along the way until an understanding gradually emerges. Self-discipline, prediction, control of error, building of the intelligence, all of this spontaneously will emerge for the children as a consequence of their own learning. It is only these qualities in turn that will lead the children to make future spontaneous choices and move them towards self-construction. Our children are the future. Montessori called them the father of man. Our children today are making the men of tomorrow. The choices that our children are making will affect the world that they live in. And the choices our children will make as adults will affect the world that they live in. All we can hope is that the education gives them the strength and the means to make good choices. That education gives them the possibility to make choices with a moral conscience, to make choices that will change the world for the better. It is only education as an aid for life which will enable our children to realize their potential and in turn create a world of peace and harmony through the choices that they make. Thank you.